And this fella said to me, will you have a drink with me, Frank? I said, certainly. He said, if I had bad news from the doctor, I got to take a tablet every day for the rest of my life. I said, well, that doesn't sound bad. He said, he only gave me 4. I rang up the wife from that hotel down the road, that beautiful holiday, gorgeous hotel. You know, the lovely dressing gown behind the door, and the big, thick, fluffy towels, and you know, the soft linen sheets. Took me half an hour getting my suitcase closed.
So we're here at the Lyric Theatre to find out all about Frank Carson, a rebel without a pause. The show opens on the 1st of November, and standing beside me is the man who's taken on the role of Frank. It's Dan Gordon. How are you, sir?
I'm very good. Frank Carson, news at 10, sober. Yes, I'm good. I'm very good. Thank you very much. I've spent 3 years researching this piece of work, and eventually I got it enough together to put it on in the Edinburgh Festival in August. And now I've come back, and I would like to try it and see what happens in Belfast, and if I can get away with it in my own town and Frank's own town.
So the title of the show, A Rebel Without a Pause, is a genius title because that sums up Frank in one sentence, doesn't it?
Well, actually, it was Frank's idea. It was his title. I think he was going to write a biography, and he toyed with It's a Cracker, and he toyed with The Way I Tell Him, and he toyed with this as well. I don't know if this would have ended up as the book, but certainly for me, as you say, it sums Frank up. He was a joke machine. He had comedy Tourette's. He didn't know when to stop, and he could be a bit marmite for some people, but essentially he was a very decent man, did an awful lot of good charity work on top of everything else, and he was very funny.
Yeah, he was, of course. And of course, coming from Belfast as well, a character who everybody knows, everybody loves. And I know you've played many great characters over the years, but this one probably must be the biggest challenge, I would say.
It's certainly up there amongst them because it's someone that everybody knew and grew up watching. Well, a lot of generations did, because Frank did the comedian show from 1971, and it ran right through to the 90s, but he was also involved in Tis Was, the children's programme, and then he was on Noel's House Party, he was on Blankety Blank, he was Give Us a Clue. It was in 1976. I did 41 network television shows. Wouldn't say it made me rich, but when I wrote a cheque, the bank bounced. And he did all of that. So, you know, because he's so much part of the consciousness and was a network presence, you've got to be very careful how you portray them.
And of course, he had fans all over the world. He even entertained Pope John Paul II, didn't he?
That's absolutely right. He got a papal knighthood for his charity work, and he met the Pope, and he got 17 minutes with the Pope, which was exceptional. Ronald Reagan got 11, and he was very, very proud of that fact. And he had a lot to talk about. Well, he always has plenty to talk about, but he'd been stationed in the Middle East after the war, so he'd been in Bethlehem, he'd been in Haifa, and he talked to the Pope about that. He also said to the Pope, we have one thing in common, we've both been shot. If you see John Wayne, tell him it hurts. And you go, what? And he also got the Pope, he taught the Pope to say, that's a cracker. You go, this is Frank, only Frank Carson could do something like that.
Exactly. So what does this story actually tell? Does it go right back to his army days?
It goes right back before. It goes right back to his childhood, where he was born in Great Patrick Street, and then they moved because there was other children came along, and then they moved round to Corporation Street. His mother held the keys for Sinclair Seaman's Presbyterian Church, and tough, like even the arms on the chairs had tattoos. Have you seen a cat with a tail? It was a tourist. And so his mum was caretaker there. They lived facing that for 25 years. He moved up to Stratheden Street when he got married. He was at the Troxy. He was doing variety shows, comedy shows, touring with Brady Gallagher, Ruby Murray, Von Doran. Then we get into people like Jim Reeves, Mario Lanza coming to Belfast, James Cagney. You have no idea of the people. He was like Forrest Gump. He was at all these places at certain times, ran into certain individuals, worked with so many, entertained royalty, met the Pope. It's 85 years and 75 minutes. It was really quite a challenge.
Wow. Do you remember the first time you ever met Frank?
I only met Frank once. You probably met him a lot more than I did because you do all that stuff. But I was backstage in the BBC in Blackstaff, and we were doing a programme about the shipyard. Frank was a plasterer at one stage, and he'd worked briefly in the shipyard, so they got him along. Jimmy Ellis was out front telling a very long story about a bath disappearing out of a port. It went out of they thought it had been stolen, but actually it was broken up and stuck out a porthole, and that's how it disappeared. But Jimmy took a long time to tell the story, and then eventually he finished, and Frank and I were backstage. I hadn't spoken, and he looked at me and went, "That's short in the winter." So, I mean, that was the only thing I ever said or heard from Frank Carson. I didn't even say it, I just went, You know, but he was an amazing man.
I used to love having him on the radio show because when he was in Blackpool, he would have just taken notions to phone radio shows up in Belfast. There was good points about having him on the radio show, but bad points as well, because he would talk and it'd be gag after gag after gag, and I'd be watching the clock. I'm going, we're coming to the commercials. We've missed the commercials. Frank, and he'd go on like, Frank, I'm 10 minutes late for the adverts. Gotta go. That's what he was like.
No, he had comedy Tourette's. He couldn't stop. Funny thing was, I was in Blackpool just a couple of days ago because we're doing a documentary about making the play, and it was extraordinary to stand on the stage at the North Pier, 1,200 seats stretched out in front of you, everybody on the same level, no boxes, no gods, no balconies where it's more expensive. Everybody's treated the same, and all the big stars that stood there, from right back from Charlie Drake and Bruce Forsyth and Frankie Vaughan, and Frank Carson had headlined there too. And if you were anybody in the 60s, 70s, 80s particularly, you played Blackpool, and Frank lived there for many happy years.
He did. So the show opens on the 1st of November?
The show opens on the 1st of November, which is next Wednesday, and it only runs for 6 performances, 5 days. The matinees have still got good availability. It means that there's nobody coming. So if you need a seat for that, but the night times I'm delighted. Well, no, it's a bit half full on the matinees, but the night time's getting pretty tight. So if anybody wants to book, get in for a matinee, and then you can go for your tea afterwards.
Brilliant. When you finish with this, what's next for you?
I'm directing a pantomime in the SSE Arena. We're doing Aladdin for the first time ever, a pantomime in that big arena, 2,500 seats, which is meant, and it's been really good because they've dropped the prices down because it's the first time they're going to do it. The family tickets are really reasonably priced because taking a family to a panto is an expensive business.
Yeah.
We have Ridian, we have Jake Carter, we have Nadia Ford, and we have a lot of local guys as well. We have Ross Anderson Docherty, with Chris Robinson, we have Naomi Rock, we have got brilliant people. So yeah, that's happening after Frank. So instead of me getting a rest, I'm going to get busier.
Great stuff, Dan. It's been great talking to you as always. Good luck with both shows.
This is Frank Carson hunting you back to the studio. How was that?
Perfect.
And the rest, as I say, is history.